In light of the COVID-19 pandemic, there has been much discussion about online teaching and learning. And at DivineWord, we have the policy there for reference, the online learning policy. You have the intent of the policy, the various definitions, given the policy statement, details, online study in PNG from overseas, and so on and so forth, the different segments. It's about 7 pages. So for me personally, I do a lot of blended learning, a blended style. I use the blended mode or method of learning in my units. So if you look at the definition there, blended learning is a mix of online learning and face-to-face teaching and learning. So I have the traditional lectures and the tutorials, and then I have activities that I give to students, and they use the learning management system, or they use Moodle to complete the activities and submit not only tutorial activities, but they use Moodle as well for assessments, and I share content and do a lot of things using Moodle. So the policy provides the framework for one to operate in. Okay, based on the policy, my methodology, firstly and foremost, the important thing is my unit outline. My unit outline is created every semester. I try to review and try to make changes in light of my experiences with students on a semester to semester basis. If I see that there's a lot of talk about a particular assessment in the unit evaluation by students, or if there's areas where students pick on or talk about, discuss critically or not critically in the unit evaluation, then I try to make adjustments in order to learn from my mistakes, what I've done, and what is good, what is not good, and I make changes along the way. So on a semester to semester basis, I try to refine, review, and update my unit outlines. So the standard DivineWord University unit outline starts off with the title, the unit code, the credit points, prerequisite. If there's any description, the learning outcomes are very important. As per policy, we are required to have 3 learning outcomes, but it depends on the nature of the unit and the subject matter. So I like 3 because it makes it easy. If I have 3, then the learning outcome sets the parameter for learning. So there's a parameter where I operate within and I don't go out, because as you know, international relations is quite a broad field. There's so many things to learn, and our human mind is limited in our capacity to think and evaluate and look at all the literature and so many concepts and theories. So the learning outcomes, again, it acts like a parameter, like a fence. So I have this fence, and then I operate within the fence, and I try to design my learning activities to help me measure the learning outcomes, as well as to help students at the end of the unit develop or achieve the learning outcomes, similar to graduate attributes. There's 8 graduate attributes, but I've selected only 3, and whatever I do, I try to help students to, within whatever I do in the unit, I try to help students to develop these graduate attributes. Whatever I do, meaning the assessments that I give, the learning activities, the tutorials, either online or face-to-face in the classroom. So just 3 selected for this particular unit, IR 202, Theories of International Relations. The first one is social interaction. communication and information technology. So the units and the content are all designed to help achieve the graduate attributes and or develop the graduate attributes and achieve the learning outcomes at the end of the semester after week 15. So my content, the teaching and learning strategies. So for this unit, I have lectures, tutorial activities, class oral presentations together with the take-home test. So these four are the main components, and it's all centered on a more traditional style of learning. As you can see, I have the traditional lectures and then tutorials. So the blended part is mainly for the tutorial activities. I have different activities and they're done online using Moodle. So students are required to attend 6 lectures and participate in 6 tutorial activities. And then they also have to participate in 4 seminar presentation sessions and complete the 2 take-home tests in order to achieve the identified learning outcomes and develop the selected graduate attributes. So the 4 main components are structured logically on a weekly basis as shown in the learning map. So the learning map is another very important document that I use, and it's included within a bigger document that I call the learning guide. So in my learning guide, I have 3 major components of the learning guide. The first one is the grading structure, how I will grade the breakup of the grades. As you can see, for assessment task 1, it's a video analysis that will be done during the 2 hours tutorial period. So for the first tutorial, and I have 6 tutorials as mentioned in the learning unit outline, 6 tutorials. So in the 6 tutorials, I have these 4 video analysis activities that they will do, and they will score 5 marks for each of the 6 tutorials. So 5 times 6, that's a total of 30%. So that's the grading structure for the first task. And the second one is a seminar presentation. The seminar as a marking criteria. If you look, if I scroll down, you'll see the marking criteria that was derived from the University of Nottingham. So that is the criteria that I will use to mark the students. And also there's a blended approach integrated within this assessment. So apart from just standing up there and presenting the topics that they have selected, the students are also required to submit 5 different learning resources. The first learning resource is their PowerPoint presentation. They have to submit their slides on a particular forum created for uploading slides. And secondly, they have to, depending on what they've selected, either theory, concept, or scholar, they have to create a Moodle glossary entry. If it's a concept or theory, they find a definition for the theory or concept, or if it's a scholar, then they give a brief biography, maximum of 500 words and minimum of 300 words. And they also have to produce 1 audio file, and then they also have to produce a 6-minute video, maximum of 6 minutes, and 4 minutes is the minimum. And then they have to write a forum post. So they have to, apart from just orally presenting during the period that they have selected to present the seminar, in the 4 different seminars, they have to also produce 5 different learning resources and share with their peers as well as other students who will take the unit in the next year. So the resources will be on Moodle for other students to access as well. So there's also an element of blended learning integrated into this assessment. And then the final assessment task is the take-home test. There'll be 2 tests for 20% each, so that's a total of 40. So 40, 30, 30, that's 100%, 60, 60, 40, 100. So the second major component of the learning guide is the instructions for students to follow in order to complete the assessment task. And please note that all this information is given in week 1 to students. Once students, they get the enrollment key, and when they enroll onto the Moodle unit webpage, they have access to the learning guide. It's created as a book, ebook on the unit webpage. So they have access to the marking criteria, the instructions, the breakup of the grades, and also they have access to the learning map. So these are the 3 components, 3 major components or elements of the learning guide. The first one is the grading structure. The second one is the guidelines for assessments. So assessment task 1, video analysis. All the videos are also on Google Drive, and they're also on the Moodle webpage. And then the questions for review. Task 1, Task 2, seminar presentation. The topics are there for students to select. Free trade, neoliberalism, Francis Fukuyama, solidarism, pluralism, John Vincent. And they also have the learning resources like required readings that are there on the unit webpage in a folder labeled as required readings for them to open up, and then read and prepare their presentation. And the third assessment task is the take-home test. It's an open book test for students. The questions are also given in week 1. That's how I like to do things, give things in advance or give the details to students in advance, and it is up to them to manage their own time and manage their workload. And then if they are more organized and more structured, then they can answer all these questions before and do their own research in their own time, plan out their schedules, and then answer in advance. And once the links are open, then they can just submit 2 days, 3 days before the due date. So that's the third assessment task. So after the guidelines, the third major element is the learning map. So the learning map is very important. It provides students with an understanding of what will be done in week 1 all the way to week 15. So in the learning map, you have week 1. This is what we will do in week 1. Week 1, we will introduce each other, get to know each other, introduce the unit outline. We'll go through the unit outline and the learning guide. And then you have the inquiry questions there. What is the unit about? How it fits into the Bachelor of Arts, PhD Studies and International Relations program. How important is the unit outline and the learning guide? And then the topic learning outcomes. At the end of the week, they should be able to differentiate the 3 major learning outcomes and determine how they are connected to the 3 assessment tasks, identify and develop an understanding on how to complete the various assessment tasks. So the required readings are the unit outline and the learning guide. The learning spaces are outlined there, as well as the mode of delivery, discussion on the unit outline and learning guide, webpage review to determine content of the unit. So in week 2, workshop on creating a podcast, creating an audio file. Week 3, theories of international relations. What are the different theories of international relations? How does the different theories of international relations help to understand the behavior of states and non-state vectors. And the first tutorial activity will be was a group discussion and presentation, and the marking scheme and time limitation is given there. Week 4 tutorial activity, week 5, so all the weeks are organized in the same manner all the way down. So the questions are there, the different things that they'll be doing during the tutorial period as well as during the 1 hour lecture period. And learning will not only happen in the classroom, but as you can see, as per this particular segment here, learning spaces, the classroom is one learning space. My blog, the Yagiora files, is one learning space. The Moodle unit webpage is a very important learning space. Webmail, student mail, staff mail. They can send me an email, and through the usage of email, we can communicate and exchange knowledge and information. Facebook discussion group. For the 7 international relations unit, we have 7 different Facebook groups, and students are members of the group. So content information is shared on a daily basis in relation to international relations and general information about Papua New Guinea and the world. And then the consultation hours are considered as, or is considered as, a learning space as well. Students come for consultation if they do not understand something that has been discussed verbally in class, face-to-face classes, or online when we exchange comments and questions and share videos and audio files. If there's something that students want me to elaborate further, then another important learning space is my consultation hours. Per week I have three days and 3 different afternoons that I dedicate for students to come and engage in consultation. Alright, so week 6 all the way to week 7 and week 8. So for me personally, during the seminar presentation week and during the seminar presentation week, I try to use the time, the 3 hours, for presentation. As well, for the test, take-home test, the week is given to students. The 3 hours for class is given to students, so they have to use the 3 hours to do the test. So there will be no face-to-face contact or classes during the week, the particular week. For example, for IR2 to week 9 is the first test, take-home test 1. So that's next week. There'll be not this coming week, but the week after, there'll be no face-to-face classes. Students will use the 3 hours to go back to the learning guide and look at the questions given, and then provide the answers to the questions before Friday 11 p.m. or 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. in the afternoon, depending on the closing time and date. Okay, so then all these are as per sequence from week 1 all the way to week 13. Week 14 is the second take-home test, and then week 15 they have the unit evaluation, student unit evaluation, where students are required to use the 3 hours to evaluate the unit. The evaluation is run by the Quality Assurance Division of the university, and it is something that we do on a semester basis every semester. Okay, so the learning guide is one important document, and as well as the unit outline. Both are very important when planning what to do. So what I use to what I use to create my web page is mainly the learning map. The learning map is very important because you have different web pages, and you can decide how you want to structure your web page, whether you want to go by topics or go by weeks. For me, I like using or going week by week because of my learning map. So I have week 1, and whatever information that is in the week 1 page is copied from this particular segment of the matrix and then pasted onto the HTML editor for this particular page. And the same is for week 2. This page, whatever information is there, is taken from the learning map, Microsoft Word learning map, this particular learning map of mine. So what I do is just copy and then paste it, open this one and then edit and paste. So I do this repeated activity for all the pages, week 6 all the way to week 15, the unit evaluation. You can see the videos are not showing because I'm offline, I'm not connected to the internet, but if I'm connected then you'll see the videos up here. Okay, so these are the pages that are connected to the learning map. So students, when they click on week 1, they know exactly what we'll be doing in week 1, week 2, week 3. The information is there, the similar information that is contained here in the learning map is shared on the unit web page in the various pages that I've created. So these are called pages, week 3, week 2, week 4. And then you have the lecture PPTs or PowerPoint and the video. And for the 5 learning resources for the students for the seminar, I have the realism forum, the glossary for realism, the forum for audio file, the forum for the video file, and then the forum post, the forum for the post. So when talking about online learning, for me the most important documents that I firstly create and consult, to start off with, I look at the policy for guidance, and then based on the policy I create my unit outlines, so I just make changes. The second important document is the unit outline, and then from the unit outline, from my major learning outcomes and the graduate attributes that I want the students to develop, it helps me create my learning guide. So in the learning guide, like I've stated, the 3 major elements are firstly the grading structure, secondly the guidelines for assessment, step-by-step instructions for students to read and follow. If they do not understand, they come for consultation, or they email me, or they message me on Moodle or on Facebook, in our Facebook group. Whichever method of communicating they choose, it's up to them. So they communicate and advise that, okay, I do not understand this, what you want us to do, what is the expectation, can you elaborate further, can you explain the marking criteria. So the second important major element is the guidelines, the instructions for each assessment task. And finally, the third most important element of my learning guide is the learning map. So like I've showed a few minutes ago, what is on the learning map is directly copied and pasted onto the weekly segments on my Moodle unit web page. So on a weekly basis, students, they know exactly what to do, and the inquiry questions are there. The topic learning outcomes are connected to the three major learning outcomes stated in the unit outline. And then the required readings, what they need to read, the mode of delivery, whether I'll be giving a lecture, it will be a tutorial, a video lecture, guest lecture. And the learning spaces, I'll be using the classroom, the Moodle unit webpage, webmail, Facebook discussion group, consultation hours, my blog, and so on and so forth. So all this information are given in the weekly segments on Moodle, and they're derived from the learning guide, the third segment, which is third important segment, which is learning map. I call it learning map. So this is my methodology. That's what I do every semester. I start off by reviewing my unit outline. If I make changes to the assessment that I want to give, if last year, the semester before, I gave a test and then I want to mix it up and give them something different, a social media awareness campaign, then I sit down and I plan and I write out my instructions, and I do my research in order to put together the marking criteria. Then I plan which week I should ask them to submit, and how many percent will I allocate for this assessment task. So first thing first, the unit outline, and then the learning guide is created based on the unit outline. So for me, that's my methodology. I do my unit outline, create my learning guide, and then after creating my learning guide, everything that is on the learning guide is transferred onto my Moodle unit webpage for all the units that I teach. So that's what I do every semester, my methodology once again. So thank you for listening.